Welcome to Modern Day Abigails. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new." So let's listen to God's Word, where everyday lives transform and where we can become the women God created us to be.
I was not a Christian.
Right.
I didn't know him at all when I got married.
Right.
And I learned about him later.
Right.
And
tragedy sometimes does that for us.
yeah. And
I got closer to the Lord in those 2 years that I was married, the first marriage. Oh my gosh, I learned how to pray. I specific prayers. It wasn't like overall. I learned how to pray specifically. I learned how to go to the Lord when I had to. I felt I got stronger by the end of that time period. And I think that's actually what scared him, is he saw that I was no longer real docile and he could walk over me, because the Lord had been working on me. He'd been teaching me how to pray. I saw miracles happen while I was married to him, because there was no other way out except the Lord had to do it.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And now I will say that I wasn't a Christian, but I was still making bad decisions. For instance, I moved in with him.
Right.
Okay. We're not supposed to do that.
Right. That's true.
Okay. Right. Okay. Mistake number one.
Right.
Mistake number two is I didn't know him all that well. Not like I should have.
Right.
We were together for about a month before I moved in with him.
Oh, I guess I don't remember that part.
Yeah. And then we lived together for about a year before we got married.
Wow.
And the only reason we got married is because his ex-wife abandoned the kids, and we couldn't file for custody until we were married for 6 months. And so he's like, "Hey, we got to get married." And I'm like, "Hey, okay." And that's how that went.
Yeah. Well, what we're trying to say is sometimes we do make bad decisions, but the Lord will sometimes take our bad decisions and help us flip it to where we learn from it and make good decisions afterwards.
Yeah.
But we have to learn from our mistakes.
Right. And I ended up having, way before I even met you, which we do this now.
Yeah.
But I also have something that I've been doing since 2009 on my own, and that's help women just like me.
Right. Exactly.
And in various ways. And so the Lord took something horrific and he turned it into something beautiful.
Yeah, he did.
And
if we allow it.
Yeah. And I get asked this question, and I'm sure you do too. And I've mentioned this before. I've had numerous women ask me, knowing what you know now and helping women the way that you help them now, would you do anything different? Would you go through what you went through? Yes.
Yeah.
I actually would.
Right.
Because of the outcome. One, my relationship with the Lord, it appeared.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
It now exists.
Exactly.
And then it became stronger.
Yeah.
And then now look what he's given us.
Sure. Would we like to have had
a podcast?
Would we like to have had a great relationship with the Lord and never gone through that stuff?
Oh, sure.
That would be.
I don't.
Well, it'd be ideal.
Sure.
But
I don't know anybody like that.
But we have a sinful, fallen world. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. I don't know anybody like that. I'm sure there are. Hey, I don't know them.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't met them either. But it's a sin fallen world. So the likelihood of that happening is probably if there's somebody listening who's had a fabulous life and walked with the Lord since the beginning of time and never had a. No, I don't think it's biblical either, because he said we're going to have trials and tribulations. Yeah. Yeah. So that's just the part of the way we have to hold the cat by the tail to learn. Yeah. Mark Twain.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. So what we want to point out here is no matter what side you find yourself on, Naomi or the girls, Anna's or mine, there's always hope.
Yes.
Hope is not lost, even if it feels like it. Even if it feels like it. Okay. And some of you may be asking, how is that?
Right.
Okay. How is there hope when there doesn't look like there's any hope? Okay. So it comes in many forms.
Right.
Sometimes we have access to it. But instead we're determined, and we just talked about that, we're determined to do it ourselves.
Yeah.
We're too prideful to ask for help. And there's all kinds of ways you can ask for help, not necessarily to a specific person, But if you are like the situation that I was in where I didn't have anybody, there are places that you can go. There's shelters, there's food pantries if you need food. We have our emergency line in the United States, and I say that because we have people outside the U.S. that listen. So in the U.S., our emergency line is 911.
Right.
If you have immediate danger, 911.
Yeah, we've never condoned abuse.
Absolutely
not. We don't
not.
condone it. We get away from being abused. We're not saying divorce. We're just saying get away from abuse.
Right. Absolutely. And there's things that you can call. So, and these aren't necessarily a permanent solution, but they might be a solution to get you out of a situation right now.
And then they'll help you get to where you need to go.
Exactly.
There is daycare assistance so that you can work, things like that.
There's all kinds of government programs. You just have to, it's a baby steps.
Right.
And baby steps are scary sometimes, but that's okay. Be brave. Take the baby step. God is always with you. He's always with you.
Right.
And we just wanted to dig into that a little bit in case you're one of the ones in the hopeless situation right now. Again, there is help if you're willing to look for it and willing to take that step. And my situation, I didn't know of any help. I wasn't one, the internet didn't exist at this particular time.
No, one either.
Yeah. And so, I didn't know any resources. I didn't know what to do. I was still naive, and life was an absolute mess. So I didn't take these steps, but we want you to know that there are.
Yes.
They are out there. They are. And, okay. So we're going to go ahead and hit chapter 7.
No, you mean verse 7, chapter 1, verse 7? Because there's only 4 chapters in Ruth.
Yeah,
but,
that's true. Chapter 1, verse 7. Okay. Therefore, she went out from one place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her. And they went on the way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her daughters-in-law, "Go, return each to your mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. Lord, grant that you may find rest in the house of each of your husbands." So she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, "Surely we will return with you to your people."
Can I stop real quick there?
Yeah.
Just because my side note, it has nothing to do with yours, but I just want to point out something I think is interesting about that part.
What is it?
That she says, go to the house of your husbands, meaning you're going to go get married again. So I think she knew that the baby problem was with her sons, not with them. Because why else would she might have said, go to your husbands? I'm not sure if you thought that the problem was with you. You would think you could get married again. But she was very clearly thought they could get married again and have children with other men. I think she knew it was her sons. And it was probably the sickness and everything, because what you'll talk about later about they're not supposed to even be with a Moab.
Interesting. Yeah. I had not thought about that.
That was one of the things. I got another shower. Usually it's shower thoughts or cleaning the cat box backs, but since the cat decided to go feral and go back outside, it had to be brushing my teeth thoughts.
Okay.
So that was one of the things that hit me, is I think she believed it was her son's fault that they didn't have children, not theirs.
Interesting, because they were married 10 years.
Exactly. And they didn't have any children. Yet she's saying, you know what? Now, granted, they could have been like 13 or 14 when they got married, and it usually takes another couple of years before maybe they can have a baby. But in this case, they should have had one by now. And since they didn't, but since she did call her son sickly and mentally deranged or mentally sick, it's a possibility that the union process might have had difficulties.
Interesting.
And somehow, if you live together, you're probably not much hidden. So she might have known. That's what I was thinking, is I thought that was interesting that she did not blame her daughter-in-laws for not having any grandchildren, no heirs.
No, she didn't. Okay.
Anyway,
okay.
I just thought that was interesting because I think we can see between the lines what type of household it was and what household we will see.
Interesting. Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, cool. All right. So she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and they wept. And they said to her, "Surely we will return with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Turn back, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there still sons in my womb that they may be your husband? Turn back, my daughters. Go, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say I have hope, if I should have a husband tonight and should also bear sons. Would you wait for them till they were grown? Would you restrain yourselves from having husbands? No, my daughters, for it grieves me very much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord has gone out against me. Okay, I want to point out real quick that she, at this point right here, she is in complete and utter despair at this point in her life. And you can literally feel the pain coming off of her words. Okay, 14. Then they lifted up their voice and
I see the love she has for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. She's grieving in despair, but she has so much love for them.
Yes, that's true. Absolutely. She does love them. Okay, so 14. They lifted up their voices and they wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her.
I love that word, clung.
I know. Love that. And 15. And she said, look, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and to her gods. Run after your sister. Return after your sister-in-law. But Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following you forever. For wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people. Your God shall be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me. So verse 18, when she saw that, she was determined to go with her. She, being Naomi, stopped speaking to her. Okay, so we're gonna break this down. We're gonna break this down big time. Okay. So they all these three girls, they set out to Bethlehem. And then Naomi, she gets all sad. She gets all sad in her feelings. And she tells the girls to go back. Just go back, girls. I'm going home alone. Now, we don't have any idea how far outside of Moab or outside of town that she got. I don't see how far out of town that she got. Do you see it?
I'm looking at my maps. I found Moab on this one map.
It doesn't say where she had this conversation.
No, it doesn't. But I'm trying to figure out where in the world is Bethlehem on my map.
You look it up. I'm gonna keep going. Okay. Okay, so we don't know how far out of town that she got, but what she said was, y'all go home to your own family.
Check that out. All right, there's Moab.
Yeah.
Okay, right here is Bethlehem. They got the Dead Sea in between them. So they either had to go across the Dead Sea or they had to go completely around through Reuben and Gad, hook around to Benjamin, and then wind up in Judah.
Well, that would make sense of why it takes 2 weeks of rugged terrain.
2 weeks? Girl, that means they had to go through the Red Sea because I can't see how that would have been 2 weeks going around the Dead Sea. So they must have found a spot where they got a boat and went across. How do you know it's 2 weeks?
Because I looked up how long on foot does it take to go from Moab to Bethlehem.
I mean, they could have gone through Edom up around, but still, that looks like more than 2 weeks.
Okay, listen.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's
I'm just
a long
saying,
journey.
I'm just looking on my map.
Right, yeah.
Land of the 12 tribes.
So it may be even longer than we actually think,
yeah.
Okay?
Or they somehow hooked a ride across the Dead Sea. I guess they could have taken a boat across the Red Sea.
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't say that, but it doesn't.
It says it was a long journey.
Well, if they went around the round, it definitely was a long journey.
And so what I read is that this journey, if they did it on foot, of course they did it on foot, it is a rugged
I think
terrain.
Back then it was like 25 miles a day.
Yeah.
Times 14. That is 350 miles.
And they had gear and stuff. And they weren't just walking along with their backpacks.
I'm going to say.
They had stuff. They were moving back.
They give me the elevation, but they don't give me that little bitty thing that says how many miles it is. But that sure does look more than 350 miles. But then again, what do I know?
It's a long trip. Listen, long. And not only that, they made that trip the first time with men. They're making this trip the second time.
Well, no, she only had her husband.
No, she had her.
I don't think the boys were born until they got into Moab.
No, it says.
Did they say they all? That means they went with babies.
Yeah.
Because I think it was like 10 years. Wait, hang on.
It said, verse 2, with...
the name of the man, okay. Names
his 2 sons.
Yep, went to the country, remained there, died. Okay, so because the boys didn't even get married until after Dad died, but we don't know how long they were there before Dad died.
Yeah, we don't know.
We just know that they were there for about 10 years.
They were married for 10 years.
Right.
The boys were married for 10 years.
And they dwelt there about 10 years. Well, wait a minute.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it says the name of the one was Orpah and the name of the other was Ruth, and they dwelt there for about 10 years. They didn't say after marriage.
They met their wives. The one wife was named Orpah. The other name was Ruth.
And they dwelt there about 10 years.
So they were married for 10 years.
It doesn't say they were married. They just said they dwelt there for 10 years.
After they met them.
But that's not what it says.
But that is what it says.
No, they dwelt there for about 10 years. It doesn't say before or after marriage. They just said they dwelt there for 10 years. This is why the Bible's fun. Verse 4.
Now they took wives.
Uh-huh.
Later on, then they dwelt there for 10 years.
Right, but that doesn't mean that they would live there and then 10 years for marriage. They just been there for 10 years.
I think they were there for longer.
I don't know.
Because that means that
Dad might have died right after they got there.
Well, then how old? And it doesn't say how old the boys were when they left.
You're right. So they might have been older.
Listen,
you're right.
These are things we don't know. We don't have any answers on this.
But you're right.
Okay?
So they could have been.
They were there for a long time.
Yeah, they could have been 20. They could have been 20 years old when they all left, and then 30 when they died. Who knows?
And we don't know how long after the guys died that she decided to go back. We don't have any idea.
Well, we just know they dwelt there for 10 years. That's all we know.
Yeah. And I think it was after they got married. Anna thinks it was total. So we'll see.
Yep.
I mean, we may never see. We don't know.
Okay, cool.
Anywho.
Sorry.
And that's not even a showstopper. So that's just some fun facts.
No, that's just facts. You're like you said, though, they did have, Naomi had her husband and 2 sons the first trip, and coming back, she only has a daughter-in-law.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So let me figure out where I was.
Sorry.
All right. Okay, so
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I've
you
got to
said
figure
that
out.
she you're talking about you were the girls stay.
Okay, I got it. Okay. So what we were saying is we don't know. Okay, so we don't know how far out of town they were. That's what started this whole thing. We don't know how far out of town they were.
It was far.
When she when she told them
to go back.
Okay, yeah, to go back. We don't know.
Right.
How were they walking a day? Were they walking 3 days?
That's true. We don't know.
Did they just make it to the edge of town?
Right.
Or did they just make it down the street?
You know what? Now that you said that, though, she did say, hang on, you might be onto something. Words are key, y'all. Words are key. It says, go return to each of your mother's house. Wait a minute. And they went on their way to return to the land of Judah. And Naomi said to her two, go return each of you to the house. The voices wept. My guess is if she sent her daughter-in-law by herself, they didn't get too far.
Edge of town.
Edge of town. I think you're
We're
right.
going with edge of town.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
It's not that I like it. I'm just thinking I think that because they didn't get too far.
And neither one of the girls said, listen, we're already halfway there.
Yeah,
we can't turn back now.
What?
They didn't say that.
No.
All they said was...
she probably dropped them off at it. They might have lived outside of town. They might have gotten into town, and Naomi said, hey, look, we're in here town. It's safe for you to go back to your family.
Yeah, they could have just passed one of their mother's houses, and she's sitting there telling, listen, just go home.
Right, exactly.
Just go home. We don't know.
Nope.
Anywho, Naomi saying, girls, listen, my life's over.
Yep, I'm willing to go by myself. Thanks anyway. I don't want to hurt you too.
I don't want to ruin y'all's life. My life is over. I'm not going to drag you down. Okay? This is where we are. She was all up in her feelings. She's having a little pity party. And listen, I get that. I'd had my own little pity party right then if my life was falling apart like that as well. Okay? And she tells them, I have nothing to offer you. I don't have a life. I don't have any sons. I don't have heirs. And I'm too old. I can't even if I got married tonight,
right? I
still couldn't. My sons wouldn't be old enough. What are you going to do? Wait on them?
Right.
You're not going to wait on them because that'd be forever, And she's saying,
a little weird.
Yeah. She's saying, it's hopeless. It's useless. Just go home. I got nothing to give you. Okay. And that's exactly what Orpah did.
Yeah.
She kissed Naomi and she left. And she was sad. They cried together, but she went back to Moab.
Right.
Ruth, she clung to her sweet, precious Naomi. She refused to leave her Naomi. No way was she leaving her mother-in-law. She couldn't or wouldn't do it. She just wasn't going to. Okay. So that's version 1.0.
Right.
Version 2.0. Okay. We're going to flip this around and we're going to, it's not, well, yeah. Okay. Version 2.0. We're going to talk about the girl's journey right now. So here we are. We've got, at this point now, we got 2 girls. We're down to 2 girls. Okay. Naomi, and they're heading to Bethlehem, Naomi and Ruth. So we're going to flip this around and we're going to talk about, how are we going to flip this around? We're going to flip this around and we're going to talk about,
we're going to start with Orpah first.
Actually, okay.
Okay.
So
I think that's a good place to start.
I'm incorporating the church view, and I'm using these 2 girls as the example.
Yeah, she's Orpah's the nominal Christian. Meaning who's...
Okay,
yeah.
Don't say it, Anna.
Okay.
Don't say it, Anna. Okay. So we got 2 versions here. We're gonna label Orpah version 2.0A, and we're gonna label Ruth version 2.0B. Okay. So we got 2 daughter-in-laws with 2 different decisions. Okay. So we're gonna start with Orpah. So sometimes when you make a decision and you're going to stick with, this is my decision. I'm going to stick with it. I'm not going to deter. Kind of like when you decide to diet or to exercise. Okay. You're all gung ho. You're all strong. Okay. And you're not going to be wishy-washy until somebody dangles your favorite food, aka cupcakes or whatever, in front of your face. Okay. And then all of a sudden, you ain't gung ho on dieting anymore.
Nope.
That is over. Okay.
Exercise.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we call that being not committed.
Right.
You are not truly committed to the plan.
Right.
Okay. That was Orpah. She was not truly committed. She wanted to be with Naomi. She followed Naomi.
She learned stuff from her, obviously.
Yeah, but the first out that Naomi gave her, she took it. She was gone.
Yep.
Okay. For whatever reason. We don't blame her. She'd go into a foreign country, whatever reason. It doesn't say. Okay. Okay. So what I was learning about this is, and I was reading in Doe's book, and I was also learning about reading some commentaries. And so they actually use Orpah's decision, her wishy-washy decision, and they compare it to wishy-washy salvation.
Right.
Okay.
Which is not salvation at all.
Exactly. Okay. And we're going to talk about that. Okay. So it's kind of, and this is the only example I could think of, about a wishy-washy salvation. And this happens often. So let's say you're not a Christian, but then you hear, you watch this fabulous, I'm doing air quotes here, Christian movie. There's so many out there. I wouldn't watch any of them, most of them. But if you're not a Christian, you don't know that. Right. Okay. They seem amazing and all about Jesus. Okay. Or let's say,
if you know your Bible and you're watching it and 3 seconds in, you're like, that wasn't in there.
Yeah. No. Okay. And then, let's say you hear some guy, doing a sermon and it is like a life changing. You're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I do need to get right with Jesus. Okay, let's say that's another example. Let's say that you're like, okay, I'm giving my life to Jesus. I'm all gung ho.
And you try to be good enough.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, and you do that for I don't know, let's say a week or 2, maybe even a month, maybe 2 months or whatever. And then the first time somebody dangles your previous addiction sin in front of your face, you're like, oh, just a little bit. Right. Like mine, I was an alcoholic. Oh, just a little sip. It's not going to hurt me. Or I was addicted to cigarettes. Just a little,
couple puffs.
Yeah. I'm good. It won't bother me. Next thing I know, I'm now full blown addiction again on both things. Okay. I wasn't committed to the plan. Right. I was not committed. Okay.
Right.
We are the same way with our salvation. We are either saved or we are not.
Right.
Okay. And we need to know the difference. Just because something we see or watch or hear makes us have good feelings. Okay. That doesn't mean that you're saved. There's a step process. You have to give your life to Jesus. It has to be a commitment,
right?
A covenant, so to speak.
A covenant.
Yeah, you're giving your life to Jesus, but if you didn't truly do that, then the first sign, the first little
tribulation,
inkling, you're done.
Yep,
you're gone. You're flipped
back
right
to your
back.
old ways.
Just kind of like, and I hate to mention this, but this scenario comes up. 9/11. 9/11 was absolutely tragic for here in the U.S.
Yes.
And I remember Pastor Ray was talking about how the church attendance after 9/11 exploded. Okay.
Right.
6 months later, right back to normal.
Yep.
Because that's wishy-washy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's a wishy-washy version. That's a flip-floppy version. They were all up in their feelings at that moment, but it was very short-lived. It was only a short time. It was not a commitment to Jesus.
Thank you for letting us share our tools to become the women God created us to be. If we encouraged you today, visit us at moderndayabigails.com. Remember, you are loved, cherished, and prayed over.